podcast, we'll be discussing Liverpool's massive win against Man United, and we will also be talking about the Serie A season and how the league is shaping up. At the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So coming up next, we'll be discussing the result of the Premier League fixture between Liverpool and Man United. So on Sunday, Liverpool defeated rivals Man United 7-0. This was Man United's worst defeat since Boxing Day 1931. So Pearse, Salvo, what were your thoughts about the result and also the match?
You can go, Pearse.
All right, yeah. Well, I think it was pretty much a shock to the system. I don't think anyone would have called that before the game. Considering the form that Manchester United had been in the previous weekend, they won the Carabao Cup against Newcastle. And obviously at half time it was 1-0 to Liverpool. And Man United are pretty much in the game. But in the second half, the capitulation, I don't think anyone would have seen that. Defensively, they're all over the place. I think a lot of the players chucked in the towel. And a lot of players that have done that under previous management regime are still there. And that's also an issue that they still have. But Liverpool did look back to their blistering best. And some notable performances in the midfield. Fabinho and Henderson kind of bossed it. And they got the better of the guy they've been calling the Messiah, which is Carlos Enrique Casemiro, who was absolutely shambolic.
What about yourself, Salvo? What was your thoughts?
I watched the game and I thought for the first 20 minutes, Liverpool attacked very well. And Robertson, I think, was one of the best there. For 20 minutes, he had an absolutely nightmare, the Manchester United defense. First half, 1-0. So I think it was quite there. So it could be maybe a comeback, especially for like the momentum that Manchester United had since they had that thing with Ronaldo, because they were unbeaten since then. But then the second half, like they conceded 6 goals. I don't know what happened. Liverpool, they were too strong in any part of the field in the stands, because Anfield Road was absolutely roaring, bouncing, and it was like Hampden when Scotland played. And it was totally different from like the second half until the end. And then when Gakpo scored the opener, and then the first half was 1-0, but then like Salah, Firmino, it was an incredible game. And I don't know what will happen now with Ten Hag. I still do believe that he's a great manager. He won the Carabao Cup against Newcastle, as Pearse mentioned before. But I want to be honest, after like this 7-0, this could be a humiliation for Manchester United, for their fans. Sir Alex Ferguson was in the stands too, and wasn't pleased for what I've seen. But tomorrow is a compulsory game to win for Manchester United in Europa League against Real Betis. If they don't win tomorrow, I think it will be tough until the end of the season for Manchester United, because like mentally after a 7-0 it's not easy to recover. The pressure is on you. The media, TVs. I don't know if you've seen like last night, even if it was Champions League, but Jamie Carragher holding like a 7-up and mocking like Peter Schmeichel, for example. It's not easy for the media. It's not easy at all. But I think that Ten Hag has the capability and the skills to pass this moment and to basically try to be there until the end of the season. Because let's be honest, 13 points behind Arsenal. They are flying this season. But Tottenham are 4 points behind, and the Liverpool are like 7 points behind, something about that. So it's going to be a tough race for the Champions League spot. And you don't know what will happen until the end of the season. But if Manchester United, I think they will win comfortably against Betis tomorrow. And then I think against Southampton on Saturday. I think this one could, like, what happened, the 7-0, it could have been just one case scenario, one game, everything like went bad. Like Liverpool, they were too much, and that's it. But if they don't win against Betis, maybe they lose, or it would be a tough pill to digest for Manchester United, the supporters, and Eric Ten Hag too.
Yep. So Pearse, I was going to ask you about the fact that Man United, after such a heavy defeat, do you think they should be worried about that result, considering the heavy scoreline? Do you think that could affect their season?
I definitely think it can be a factor. Because as you know, like Manchester United been on a fantastic run, and that's all due down to winning, and that winning breeds confidence. And with a 7-0 defeat, a lot of players will be questioning themselves because 7-0 is not a scoreline that happens every week. That's like kind of Sunday league kind of boys club level football. Somebody defending was shambolic as a team collectively. And obviously they never scored, never really created much. And obviously every one of the players will be down in that dressing room. And like Salvo says, they want to bounce back to Betis. If they beat Betis, that can give them that confidence back to try to get back to winning ways. But a 7-0 against your greatest rivals as well, it is humiliating, and it can maybe take a toll on mentally on the players.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Mohamed Salah. So he scored 2 goals in this match to become Liverpool's all-time top Premier League scorer. So I was just going to ask both of you, what do you make of this? And do you think Salah is an all-time Premier League great?
Definitely is. Definitely is. To be fair, the Egyptian king. But I think as Salah, you need to study his career. Of course, like he started in Egypt, then he went to Basel, and from Basel he went to Fiorentina. Of course, as an Italian, I studied him in Fiorentina and Roma, and the guy was unbelievable at Fiorentina and Roma. Even though he wasn't like a great goal scorer, but he made tons of assists at Fiorentina, Roma. I still do remember one game in Europa League back in 2013-14, that season. Fiorentina won against Juventus in Turin, and Salah was playing for Fiorentina, and he scored a solo goal. And that one was an unbelievable, incredible. And do remember Antonio Conte, which is now the Tottenham manager, at that time was the Juventus manager, said, this guy is something different. And then I do remember Roma signed them, and they reached the semi-final of Champions League that year, and Salah went to Liverpool exactly that year, and then he scored the winning goals against Roma, so the former older firm club. And that was a quite shock for the Roma, but Salah, for the Roma fans and for the Roma whatever. But Salah has been great since like 10 years. I still do think that, and I do believe that he's one of the best players that they touched the Premier League stadiums, and he played there. I think it could have been better. It could have been better. He's not that old as well. I didn't remember how old is he, but I think he's 31, 32, something like that. But
yeah, I think he's 31, yeah.
Yeah, so he could play for another 3, 4, 5 seasons at the top level. I think he has to be there. And as well with Egypt, it's not easy to play with Egypt. And to be fair, like it was in the African Cup. It's not, I think, as underrated. I want to be honest with you. He does everything perfectly. He scores, he made assists, he's a leader in that dressing room. So yeah, I think, to answer to your question, he's one of the greatest in the Premier League history since 1990s, when the Premier League started.
Here's what about you? Do you think Salah's an all-time Premier League great?
I've got to agree. I think it is. Like Salvo said, I did watch him when he was in the Serie A for Fiorentina and Roma. But I did obviously notice him when he was at Basel. when he was in that team with Shaqiri that knocked out Manchester United in the Champions League group stages. So I kind of always kept an eye on him. I never say I watched him every week, but you've seen him then. He was a skillful dribbler, but his shooting had a lot to be desired. And he went to Chelsea, didn't work out, went to Fiorentina and then Roma, where he really polished his trade. And since he's been to Liverpool, he's been an absolute killer in the box. He does not miss. Like, in terms of his dribbling, he's still got the technical ability to dribble, but now he's kind of more like an inside foot. Basically, when Ronaldo went to Real Madrid for Manchester United, just that killer instinct, big moments in big games. He scores big goals, creates great assists, and for me, he's been crucial to the way Liverpool play. And you've seen the drop off when losing somebody like Sadio Mane, and he's kind of, if you lose someone like him, Liverpool, they'll be regretting it as well, because how good a player and vital he is to the way they play. And to score 129 Premier League goals, is it?
Yeah.
Nah, for me, he's a Premier League great. Yeah.
He has to be there, Thomas. I don't think you could argue that he's not one of the greatest, especially for how football works nowadays. You know what I mean? The speed, the tactics, everything improved since like 30 years ago. So he is one of the best. And to be a Liverpool legend is not easy, because, you know, like, honestly, there are lots of players that they won that jersey and they made history, but Salah has to be there 100%. I think that even the best recognize Salah as one of the best. You cannot be like 100% a Liverpool supporter, but even Chelsea, even Manchester United, they can understand that Salah has to be there. I think as in this 10 years of Premier League, like, except Ronaldo and maybe Hazard is there. You know what I mean? Like, as a football player, no one was better and is better than Salah just now. I think just as far as I remember, Cristiano Ronaldo and maybe Hazard, even though Hazard had a different career, because with Lille, then Chelsea, yeah, he won Champions League as well. Like, he won Europa League. Yeah, but Salah won Champions League. He won Premier League after 30 years. Was top scorer. I think that just Cristiano Ronaldo is better than Salah in this years in the Premier League. And I would put Salah ahead of Hazard in terms of his career. And but personally, technically, I do prefer Hazard, because he's like, Hazard, ball on his feet, was a magician. But now, as you can see, Real Madrid is not performing as good as he was performing at Chelsea. Salah, since Basel, he had a bad move at Chelsea, but then Fiorentina, Roma, and Liverpool is always there, and he's always improving years by years. So he's one of the greatest.
Yep, no, I totally agree with both of you. So we will now move on to the review of the Serie A. So, Salvo, I was wanting to ask your thoughts about the Serie A this season. Have you enjoyed what you've watched?
I want to be honest, no. I think the World Cup during December time last year, it was a killer for the Italia Serie A momentum, but for any, I think, championship, premiership, whatever, but especially for Serie A, as you can see now, Napoli are 15 points ahead of Inter Milan. There are like lots of games. They were unbeatable. They lost last week against Lazio 1-0. They yesterday lost against AZ Alkmaar in Conference League. So as you can see, it's a crazy football experience. But no, if I want to be honest, I'm not enjoying the Serie A. I think the quality every year is getting worse and worse and worse. Serie A are losing the best football players since Cristiano Ronaldo. I think that we are not like a proper football hero, like champion. I do believe that is plenty of average player, which for the media are the best one. For example, Lukaku, like when he came back from Chelsea, now he's on loan Inter Milan, but is on the bench. Let's be honest, let's be real. Dzeko, which is 37 years old, is playing. Lautaro, which he won yesterday World Cup by, wasn't benched by Julian Alvarez, which is benched by Holland and Manchester City. So I do believe that like since Cristiano Ronaldo left, I'm not enjoying anymore as before. There are not like top football players. I think Leao is still overrated. We will see it today, but they offer him like 8-9 millions new contract per year. I think that totally not worth it, because let's be honest, he's there since like 4 years ago, and maybe like last year, yeah, he had that great run. Like he won the Scudetto, 1 point ahead of Inter Milan. Yes, but it's not enough. You need to prove you are one of the best, especially in Champions League in Europe. And Leao, to be fair, he didn't just now. I think but Dzeko, even if he's 37 years old, proved better than Leao, because he won everything with Werder Bremen, which is not easy to win like in Germany against Bayern Munich or like Dortmund, and he won a title with Grafici back in 2009. He won everything, like not the Champions League, but with Manchester City. He reached the semi-final, I guess, Champions League semi-final with Roma against Liverpool, and he was like almost there to reach the final. And he's doing very well with Inter Milan, and he won a couple of trophies. It was like Coppa Italia, and he won a Super Italian Cup. He didn't win the Scudetto yet, but to be fair, I do believe that now in Serie A, the best players are not there. If they are, like the only football players that captured my attention is Di Maria. But he's 36, almost 37 years old. He won everything, yeah, but how many years he could he play there more? So I'm not enjoying this Liga Serie A, even though I want to be totally honest, that Napoli are flying with Luciano Spalletti. Unbelievable. They lost just 2 games, 13 games to go. One against Inter Milan in the first game of 2023 in San Siro, and Dzeko scored, so 1-0, and one last time with Vecino, which is a former Inter Milan football player, and now is a Lazio. But no, in terms of quality, I want to be honest with you, I do prefer watching the Premier League. The quality in Serie A is very bad. And yeah, it's tactics. Maybe in Europe, all the Italians won the first leg. But then, as you can see, like last night, when the attention is dropping a wee bit and the level is going a wee bit up, Lazio lost home against AZ Alkmaar, which are third in Holland, I think. So I think that is overrated champions. So I think now in terms of quality players brought in, I think they're 4th or 3rd in Europe. Premier League, of course, but even Ligue 1 I think are better, because let's see Nantes with the new coach is a great guy. The Nantes is unbeaten since like 10 games. Let's see, even we had an Italian, Marseille, Tudor. Marseille are doing very well, like PSG with lots of of course, Messi, Neymar, Mbappe, Donnarumma, yeah, great, but the quality is there. You can see the quality, and also be honest, even if I'm Italian, but for 2 years in a row, Italy didn't qualify for the World Cup. And the last time happened 58 years ago in Sweden. You know what I mean? When Brazil won, it's a shame. It's the only player that I think in Italy could be recognized as one of the best is still Donnarumma, which is 24, but he's a goalkeeper. We don't have strikers today. Mancini, the Italian coach, said it's a problem for us in Italy because we don't have strikers. And he had to call up Insigne, which is playing in MLS in America, in Toronto, because there are no strikers. There are no Italian strikers. The only Italian strikers that we have maybe is Scamacca, but he's on the bench at West Ham. You know what I mean? So how could I could enjoy Italian Serie A? No, I want to be honest. No, I didn't.
I was wanting to ask about Juventus. So back in January, they were deducted points from their season. Could you explain why this happened?
But for what I've known, there were like some financial irregularities. So they were docked 15 points. For what I known as well, maybe they could give them these points back because there was a total disaster with the Italian governing body, which is called FIGC, Federazione Italiana Gioco Calcio, with Juventus. We need to be very technical there. Like if we need to go into details, and I don't have enough information to be that technical. But for what I can tell you guys is that maybe they can give these points back. And at that time, who made these irregularities was Paratici, which is now the CEO of Tottenham for wrongdoings and stuff. But like Tottenham, like Paratici at Tottenham is doing well, I think. And with Juventus, it was a massive blow. The CEO stepped back, and the property decided to sack a lot of people on the board. So now there is a total new board. There is a new CEO. Andrea Agnelli was the CEO of Juventus, which won 9 Scudettos in a row, and they reached 2 finals, Champions League finals in 3 years. Lost against Barcelona of MSN, Messi, Suarez, and Neymar, and won against Cristiano Ronaldo, Bale, and Benzema. So with 2 of the maybe greatest teams, European teams in the history, because at that time they were unbeatable. So he had a great run. He won everything in Italy. Sorry, he didn't win maybe in Europe, but he reached 2 finals. And so for this reason, he had to step back. And now there is a guy called Ferrero, which is not involved in football, which he was involved in the board in Ferrero, which is the company that makes Nutella. You know what I mean? So like he's another guy, but because he's from Turin, Alba, there has like always been a relationship there. So now he's part of the Juventus family. But it was a huge disaster even for Italian media, for Italian TV rights, because let's be honest, if Juventus won't be there, or would be as happened in 2006, relegated, I think the Italian football will die in 2 seconds, because Juventus got 50 million supporters all over Italy. It's the most followed team in Italy, and the TV rights are paying lots of money also, because like the big part is because of Juventus. Nowadays, Napoli are flying. Maybe they will win the Scudetto, fair enough, but they don't have the same. They don't have the same supporters. They don't have the same power of Juventus, Inter, and Milan. If you know what I mean. So if Napoli will win this year, it will win the 3rd Scudetto of their history after 35 years. After 35 years, that they won Juventus, Inter, Milan, AC Milan. So like Italian Serie A is based on those 3 teams. So if one of these teams could be relegated, is a massive disaster, especially now, because, for example, there are no infrastructures, no like property stadiums. Like Juventus was in 2006 was one of the most important teams that they made their own stadium. The J Stadium now is called the Allianz Stadium because of the sponsor. But like Inter Milan, AC Milan, they are still sharing like the stadium, their own stadium, San Siro. I think Cagliari got our own stadium as well, but is in Serie B, so it's relegated, so it's not in the main league. I think Udinese got one, but Udinese, I think Udinese, who supports Udinese all over Italy, I think and I don't want to be arrogant, but the only guys that support like Udinese are the only one that are from Udine, so local, you know what I mean? It could be like Celtic and Rangers here, you know what I mean? Who supports Rangers and Celtic all over Scotland, like everybody who supports, I don't know, Queens of the Park, you know, I mean, it's different, you know, the money are there, money are like Juventus, AC Milan, Inter Milan, as here like and Celtic and Rangers, the old firm. So yeah, and the supporters all over the world. Even in Italy, we support Celtic and Rangers. Like Celtic and Rangers got 450 million supporters worldwide. And in Italy, even if it's a Catholic country, I know lots of places, like lots of supporters that they support Rangers as well. But for example, Inter supporters, they can't support Celtic, and this is because of the Lisbon Lion in 1967. So yeah, but that I want to give you like a win information. And that week, Inter Milan lost Champions League against Celtic, and they lost the Scudetto against Mantova. Because they lost 2-1 against Celtic. Celtic won the first Champions League in the history, and it was the first team in the history to win a treble. And then Inter, like up 5 days after, lost the Scudetto, the final game against Mantova, which now is not even there. I mean, I think is like there is not even a Mantova team. So that maybe Inter supporters, they can't support Celtic. Maybe they support Rangers. I don't know, but yeah, this is just because of that. But there is a lot of respect between Celtic and Rangers. I do remember one of the best players in Inter Milan history, Giacinto Facchetti, that passed away, said that guy, which was Tommy McGamble, was impossible to stop. And then Celtic won the Champions League. Yeah, that one was a wee bit of history of Inter Milan and Celtic. But yeah.
Thanks, Al, for that insight. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football news roundup.
Yeah, so part of the Asian football news roundup. This morning in South Korea, Jurgen Klinsmann finally landed in Incheon Airport, and he gave his first press conference to the Korean media. And he said his first task was to win the Asian Games this summer, which was a shock to the South Korean fans, because it's very optimistic, considering he's not even met his squad or named his squad. He's going to name his squad in the next couple of weeks for that. So it's a very promising insight into his management. In terms of the Japanese league, on Friday, Yokohama Marinos drew 1-1 with Sanfrecce Hiroshima. Done a match report on that, but it's on the website. And on Saturday, there was a full league card of Kawasaki Frontale 1, Shonan Bellmare 1, Albirex Niigata 2, Hokkaido Consold Sapporo 2, Kyoto Sanga 2, FC Tokyo 0, Vissel Kobe 4, Gambo Osaka 0, Yokohama FC 1, Kaohsiung 3, Avispa Fukuoka 1, Kawashia Reysol 0, Sagan Tuso 1, Nagoya Grand Pass 0, Ura Diamonds 2, and Cerezo Osaka 1. And Vissel Kobe remain the only team with maximum points in the J League, considering last season they were fighting relegation. It's a fantastic turnaround for them. And in terms of the Korean League, on Saturday there was Incheon United 3, Daejeon Citizen 3, Suwon FC 1, Hwang Steelers 2, Daegu FC 1, Jeju United 1, and on Sunday there was Gangwon FC 0, Ulsan Hyundai 1, Jeonbuk FC 1, Suwon Blue Wings 1, and Gwangju FC 0, FC Seoul 2. And also I'd like to give a little transfer update. There's Jung San Bin, who's contracted to Wolverhampton Wanderers. Was on loan at Grasshoppers for the last 18 months. It's been unsuccessful there, barely played, and he's looking like he's going to move permanently to Minnesota United in the MLS. Breaking news here. You heard it first.
Can I ask you a question, please? That's a big name that joined the K League, yeah. So Klinsmann. So
yeah, Jurgen Klinsmann is the new Korea.
Why did he join that? For money? For what? What do you think so?
I think it's because he wants to get back into management. Obviously, seen him doing punditry. The last job he had was Mainz, I think it was 2-3 years ago, and it was a disaster. But in terms of international management, he had success there. He done well with Germany in 2006, where he
lost the semi-final.
lost in the semi-final to Italy, and obviously done well with USA in 2014 when he got into the last 16. So he has got a good record in terms of getting nations back to where they think they should achieve. And with South Korea, under Paolo Bento, the football wasn't great. And they didn't have a lot of the key players, or a lot of the players didn't perform, apart from maybe like Son and Kim and Jae, stuff like that. But the talent's there. There's a lot of young talent come through. There's experienced heads there as well. And I think they'll be aiming for higher than the last 16. They're looking to compete in the knockout stages. Because South Korea in Asia is like one of the best teams along with Japan, so they should always qualify for tournaments. And as you see, there's a lot of South Koreans playing abroad. Kim and Jae in Italy, Kang and Lee in Mallorca, Heung-min Son in the Premier League. So a lot of good players. And Klinsmann wanting to get he's got 4 years contract, so he's looking to do the World Cup. And I think if he does successful, then he might stay on. But the Asian Games is a warm-up for him, and the Olympics next year as well. So I'll be looking to South Korea to do a lot better than the last 16 and get humbled by Brazil.
So thanks, Pearse. And thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also on the Football Chuggu website. Thanks to Pearse and Saul once again. It was great to listen to these both. And thanks everyone for listening, and see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.